Bonjour, hola, konnichiwa, annyeonghaseyo, ni hao. My name is Cynthia Chandra, and I am an internationally trained artist. I have shown my art in Japan, UK, France, and USA. My passion is to encourage artists to grow and thrive in their creative soul. This world needs to see your unique perspective. I want to give you the skills and techniques to connect you with your own creativity and the tools you need to express your beautiful soul. I donate 10% back to animal rescues to protect our beautiful world that has inspired my art. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cynthia Chandra Nature Art for Animal Rescues. My name is Cynthia. I'm going to be doing 14 days of lives. Thank you for watching the replay. I really appreciate you being here and all of your love and support. I am going to switch these two cameras really fast. There, now you can see me a little better. And I am going to bring up my image to draw. Today we're going to be making a rose. And we're going to be going live for 14 days so that I can show you guys some quick and easy drawings to learn. I'm going to be teaching a 10-day course coming up. Learn to draw in 10 days for only $10. And I was going live every night for 14 days just to kind of build up excitement and let you know that it is fun to draw and it's possible to draw. I know drawing and art is intimidating to a lot of people, so I am coming live to show you some drawings that are a little more complicated that can be broken down into simpler steps for you. So I'm going to go ahead and start with this rose. All that you need today is a paper, a pencil, and an eraser. So I'm just using these standard pencils. I use Ticonderoga. It doesn't really matter what brand you use. I just like how soft the Ticonderoga pencils are. So you can pick out a piece of paper that's any size. I'm going to be drawing on a larger piece just so you guys can see it a little easier. You're welcome to have a smaller piece of paper, fold a piece of paper in half. You have a note card to draw in, anything really that's just white. Also, it's fun to draw roses on top of magazine articles or things like that too, but you're going to want to use a marker for that. So let's go ahead and get started. Hopefully I talked a little bit for you to grab your things, your tools. So we're going to start with a rose stem. So our stem is going to be a straight-ish line. That curves upward just slightly at the very top. Now, there are no straight lines in nature, so if your line is not perfectly straight, don't worry, that's natural. So the next line you're going to draw is another straight-ish line, and it's going to follow around the same path, but it's going to curve the opposite direction. If you think about it, if you watched my tree video, you'll know that anything that is growing grows up and out because it's reaching up towards the sun and then it wants to get as much sunlight as possible. So it usually grows its petals, its leaves, its flowers out. So up and out. And also you'll notice in art, a lot of times you will see that motif in a lot of the pieces because it's a symbol of growth to go up and out. Right, so we have our stem, and we're going to start working on the petals here. Now, when you're doing these, I want you to do them lighter because you are going to erase a little bit in a second. But first, I want you to watch. So a petal shape is triangular at the bottom. Think about a V. And then curved at the top. So it becomes a teardrop shape. Now, flowers aren't all straight up and down. If you were to draw them all straight up and down, it wouldn't look like a flower. They are more overlapped. So when we're drawing our flower, we're going to go one petal at a time, and we're going to think of them coming down to the same point, because they all grow up from the same point. Remember, up and out. So we're going to draw a teardrop shape and another teardrop shape. If it's hard for you to picture a teardrop shape and only draw a partial teardrop shape, it is totally fine to lightly draw the other teardrop shape and then just erase it. Okay, so if you need to practice that, drawing a teardrop shape, drawing another teardrop shape, that's fine, and then erasing it. You need to practice that on a separate piece of paper first. Totally fine. So let's go ahead and get started with our piece. Your first teardrop shape is going to come up. Remember to do these lightly so you can erase in a bit, so our petals aren't perfect. And then our next teardrop shape is going to come up, curve inward and down. And our next teardrop shape is going to come up, curve in, and then out and down. Matthew says, whoa, she's live again. Yep, every day at 10, baby. Oh my goodness, you guys crack me up. All right, so we just made our teardrop shapes. And for our leaves on the side, or the petals on the side, sorry, not leaves, I do want you to make them a little bit curved out and back. Give it a little bit of a booty. So, in and back. Think about that shape. It's also kind of the shape of a woman too. A lot of times flowers are very sensual, so people in art will make them appear to be other things. So our next shape is going to be another teardrop shape, but just the top of it. And another teardrop shape, just the top of it. So then we're going to do just the tops of the petals in a second. But first I want to edit some of these because this isn't what a typical flower looks like, right guys? So we're going to make this slightly curved. So I'm going to bring that line in, just like that. And then I'm going to bring this line in and out, just like that. Because sometimes the petals curl over, and that's going to make it look more natural. Even just those two lines moved over a little bit. And I want you to think about this shape here that we had, our teardrop shape. I want you to think about it folding over. So you're going to make that same shape, and that's going to be the petal falling over on the other side. So the same shape from the teardrop up here is folded over and down here. So the petal is kind of folding backwards on itself. And we're going to do the same thing here. So we're going to take this shape and we're going to think about it curling back. The petals slightly curved here. just like that. And then we're going to think about this shape here, doing the same thing. So draw just a line, and then draw this curved back like that. So a line, draw this curve here, back like that. So our petals are curling over on themselves. And we're going to do the same thing here, guys. Super simple. Straight line. And then we're going to draw this shape. We're going to draw it curved back because it folded over. So we had this shape here. We drew our line and we curved it back. And then we erased our extra lines. And we're going to do the same thing here. I'm going to draw my curved line in to make my petal. And see how it's starting to look more lifelike? It's starting to have some jagged edges. It's starting to feel more realistic. Because the more mistakes there are, the more natural it looks. So the next one we're going to do another straight line here. I'm going to make it slightly curved here though, because I like that curve. Then I'm going to pull it back and you copy this shape up here, mirroring it back down here. Okay, so we have a nice rose petal starting to form here. You might want to do another rose petal, kind of like that. And I don't like how straight this line is here. It doesn't look very natural to me. So I'm going to kind of give it some wave to it. Make it look more realistic, like a petal. This is our chance to play, guys. It's our chance to make fun choices. I don't like how straight this line is either. So I'm going to kind of give it a little bit of a wave here too, a little bit of body. I want you to look at your flower and see where you want to make your changes. You don't have to make the same changes I do. Maybe you want a petal that's falling off. Maybe you want it to be sad. Maybe you're thinking about something. You want to make a petal falling down. Or maybe you are a mom or a grandma and you want to make a little rosebud coming up. So you're going to do one petal shape. And then you're going to do some lines at the top. And there are little leaves here to make it look like a little rosebud. It's totally up to you. All right, so now we have our top that we still need to get finished up here. So the shape of a rose petal is folded in and in and in. And if you think of it looking at the top, it's going to look kind of like a swirl. So we're going to keep going with this layering. So the next layer is going to be less visible for a teardrop shape, and then less visible for a teardrop shape. And our very last one is going to be just visible. So we did a teardrop top, and a little tiny bit of the top over there. Now I'm going to go through and do the same thing that I did before. I'm going to take these shapes and make them look a little more natural and a little less forced shapes. I'm going to curve off some pieces, I'm going to angle this piece here. Just kind of think of some neat lines that you want to see in your piece. Oh, I think that would be a pretty cool shape up there at the top. Okay. And then erase your original lines. You don't want shown anymore. Now, I did see once a beautiful picture book that was of dancers, and the illustrator never erased their lines. So when they were drawing, for example, they were drawing a dancer, sorry, story time. They were drawing the head of the dancer, the hips, the feet, and the top of the arm, right? And they drew out like this. So instead of erasing those shapes, oh, here, let me draw these darker. So they had like their circle, feet, hands, and then they had their body drawn. So instead of, usually when you draw a dancer, you would erase these shapes, right? Well, they didn't erase them. It was so cool looking. So she had her point down here and her point back here. It was so neat because it looked like the dancer was in motion. It was very cool. So I guess it's an artist's choice, right? However, let's get back to our rose. Sorry about that. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to draw some of our spiky leaves that are against the petals. So we are going to draw elongated shapes, kind of curvy. And this is going to be that green part that you see at the base of the flowers. Remember, we want to go up and out whenever we can to really make it look like that shape is growing. So up to a point and back, up to a point and back, and really make it look like our shape is growing. Now there are some spikes on here, so if you want to add some jagged edges, that'll make it look even more like a rose. Okay, here we go on this side. Curved up. Erasing the lines behind it because we want to make the illusion that it is a rose growing. And then curved up again, back down. So really emphasizing the fact that this is a living, growing thing to make it look more realistic. I'm going to give it this nice little jagged thorns here. Let me hold it closer because there's a little bit of a glare right now on my paper. So I went up to a point and back down. And I gave it some jags. And I went up to a point and back down. And I gave it some jags. Okay, so the shading on this is going to be different than our fur because it's more smooth. So what I want you to do is lay your pencil as flat as possible. And I want you to go back and forth gently as close as you can to the line before it. And I don't want you to press very light. So you're not pressing very light. I'm not making zigzags like I did with the fur yesterday. And now I want you to go at a slightly different angle. Before I was going this direction. I want you to go at a slightly different angle this time to do the shadow line on the stem. And I'm just going to go down one side slightly on the stem to make that look like it's shadow. Pressing a little bit harder each time until I'm satisfied with how dark it is. And now I'm going to do the same thing with this little itty bitty stem down here. Give it some points down there too. And we're going to do the same thing up here. Really gently pressing, just shading it slightly, making sure it looks a different color than these rose petals, because we want the rose petals to be our shining point in our drawing. If you do get a little darker, like this one was a little too dark for me, you can always come back and erase it. And another trick is you can use your eraser to smooth out your lines by pressing lightly with your eraser. Or you can come in with your finger and smooth out your lines. Or you can use a tortilla. Most of you guys probably don't have a tortilla, but if you do, you can use a tortilla. And a tortilla is just a piece of white paper that's been rolled up. You can get them at most drawing stores for 50 cents. Usually in drawing sets too. Okay, so I'm just going through and making each of these points on my stem and my leaves coming up a slightly darker color because these are my green stems. I'm also fixing lines if I don't like how it's looking. Maybe making it a little more pointed, a little more curved. This is your chance to really edit and add a little bit more detail. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start adding my shading from my flower. Now, I want you to think of the center of a flower being curved. So I want you to curve it up like this. Make a curved line up. Curved line up. And then you're going to add a few lines, not touching each other. It's going to be the veining of the flower. But when you're doing the veining of the flower, I want you to think about the shape of the petal. So you have, I'm pressing darker here, you're going to press lighter on the front. So you have the flower shape, and you're going to do kind of curved lines along the petal. See how it's more curved. So you can see here, maybe it's a little light. Just some light lines that are the curved shape of the petal and aren't touching. Then I'm going to come at the top, do some curved shapes down, also aren't touching, and staying with the shape of the flower. Curved lines down, not touching, staying with the shape of the flower. Okay, so over here, I'm going to make my line. I kind of made it a little bit curved because my petal's a little curved. And then I'm going to make my lines coming up, not touching. Very faint, not pressing hard. These are very delicate petals. Just a hint of shading. I'm going to do another hint of shading down here for this petal. Some delicate shading in here, making my line up to remember where my line is. And the same thing on the fronts of all of these. Notice I didn't touch these petals that are folded over yet. We're going to do something different with them. But for now, we're going to come into each of them, draw our center line, and draw our lines coming out of it, or subtle lines coming out of it. Center line, our subtle lines coming out. Center line, subtle lines coming out. Center line, subtle lines coming out. Okay. So yours should have some hints of a little bit of shading now. And now where these petals are curled down, they're going to be much darker because we want them to be the inside color of the petal, not the outside. And we want to make sure that when our viewers are looking at our drawing, they're really going to see that difference. So I'm just shading it similar to how I shaded it down here. I'm going to shade those folded over pieces a little bit darker. And that'll bring some depth and some 3D texture to our drawing. And after we have our petals and the leaves that are folded over, all colored in, all shaded to how we feel satisfied, then when you feel proud of your piece, you can come down and sign it. Because you always sign your pieces. Even if you don't feel like it's the greatest piece in the world, you sign it because you know what you did today. You took some time today to make something, and that you should be proud of. All right, everyone. If you would like to, I'd love to see your pieces. You can message it to me or email it to me. And if you're interested in my classes, there's a link to sign up for more information about upcoming classes, and I would love to have you. Hope you have a wonderful night, a wonderful week. Continue to be kind to each other and continue to be your wonderful artistic selves. Bye, everyone.